In 1793, William Thornton became the first architect of the Capitol when George Washington selected his design to be the blueprint for our young nation's new government headquarters. Throughout the next 2 centuries, 10 more men have been appointed by a U.S. president to serve as architect of the Capitol. Upon confirmation by the Senate, the architect becomes an officer of the Congress and an official of the legislative branch. The architect not only directs the construction of Capitol buildings, but also supervises the day-to-day operation and maintenance of the entire Capitol campus.
This is a big job. It's like running a big company. Developing good relationships and partnerships with the Congress is absolutely vital.
Being good stewards of these national landmarks is a key role of the architect of the Capitol, as is being a good member of the Washington community itself.
Despite the name, the architect of the Capitol does far more than sketch blueprints.
When I was first appointed, somebody wrote a letter in saying they always thought the government was wasteful, and here was proof positive. They'd appointed an architect for a building that had been completed for 200 years.
George White was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and following in his father's footsteps, pursued a career in architecture and engineering. Graduating from MIT and Harvard Business School, and later capping his studies with a degree in law.
I didn't intend to graduate from law school. I became fascinated with the law. It was like a good book. I couldn't put it down.
Over time, White became an expert on the legal aspects of architecture and construction. This distinctive background made him uniquely qualified to become our nation's 9th architect of the Capitol.
Some people have said you don't need an architect, you need a manager. Well, you need both.
During his AOC tenure, White directed the construction of the Library of Congress James Madison Memorial Building, the Hart Senate Office Building, and the Thurgood Marshall Federal Judiciary Building. He also supervised the restoration of the old Supreme Court, old Senate Chambers, and Statue of Freedom. In total, George White served as architect of the Capitol for 24 successful years.
As a friend of mine used to say, you'd rather be lucky than smart. So I had a little of each, I suppose.
Alan Hantman grew up in New York City, where he earned degrees in architecture and city planning.
Creating something, as opposed to doing things that were more theoretical, is something that I always wanted to do.
After a decade of managing the facilities at Manhattan's famed Rockefeller Center, Hantman was appointed the 10th architect of the Capitol.
Both facilities have about 15 million square feet of space in their multiple buildings. Both were major sources of visitation, so had to deal with very similar issues.
During his tenure at the AOC, Hantman oversaw the expansion of the U.S. Botanic Garden Conservatory and construction of the National Garden. He also initiated the renovation of the iconic Supreme Court building. But when terrorists attacked New York and Washington on September 11, 2001, Hantman was confronted with a myriad of issues he could never have anticipated.
You plan for terrorism at some level, but certainly nothing on this level coming to impact our nation's capital.
A week later, while the nation was still reeling from the attacks, letters containing deadly anthrax spores were mailed to 2 U.S. senators. Hantman worked with Congress to enhance the security throughout the entire Capitol campus, including the new Capitol Visitor Center, which was still under construction.
We re-examined those plans, revised them very significantly. The security was a much greater component. The Visitor Center is the largest increment of growth in our nation's capital, and I think it's wonderfully respectful of the building. And I'm very, very proud of the team who worked hard and took a lot of pride in that project.
Growing up in Maryland, all of us have an opportunity to go on your 8th grade civics field trip to the Capitol building, as I did. And I never would have imagined that it would today be my responsibility to ensure it's functioning properly for the Congress.
After earning degrees in architecture and systems management, Stephen Ayers wanted to serve his country, so he joined the Air Force.
I was actually an architect, designing a wide variety of buildings from family housings and multi-use play fields, aircraft hangar and support facilities.
In May of 2010, after serving as acting architect of the Capitol for 3 years, Ayers was appointed to the permanent post.
To receive unanimous consent by the United States Senate on my nomination as the 11th architect of the Capitol was quite an honor.
Under Ayers' leadership, the AOC completed the Capitol Visitor Center, has launched many energy-saving initiatives, and is gearing up for 2 major building restorations on campus.
We've got a top-to-bottom renovation of the Cannon House Office building, and we've got a renovation of the dome of the United States Capitol that everybody's going to be watching.
Most important to Ayers and his predecessors is the ongoing care of the thousands of employees who work at the Capitol and the millions of others who visit each year.
Sometimes as many as 20,000 people a day are here visiting their nation's capital, combined with the 30,000 employees that are here every day as well. It's quite important that we have the facilities in clean, neat, and safe manner for them to work and enjoy. But we also have a responsibility to the people of this country to ensure that these beautiful and iconic treasures that are here on Capitol Hill remain for future generations. So it's rigorous work.